Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Sneako. If you don't know him, he's a YouTuber. I'm going to compare him to a couple of different things which I think connect well to what the videos he makes. I'm going to operate as if you know him, so I'll save you like a long-winded explanation. If you don't know him, you'll get the gist as we go along, so don't worry about it.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is a 1998 Terry Gilliam film based on a 1971 book by Hunter Thompson, displaying the not quite true story of his reporting on a motorcycle derby. It's really about his and his attorney Dr. Gonzo's drug-riddled adventures down the Vegas Strip. Gonzo journalism, the type used by Thompson in Fear and Loathing, takes real-life events, puts the author at the center of it, and fictionalizes part of it as critique or satire. In Fear and Loathing, we don't know if the drug vendors are real, but it doesn't matter too much. The film isn't about the motorcycle competition, or any of the other things Thompson is sent to do, but to show the failures of the 60s hippie movement and the American dream. Less a sort of typical movie that builds to a firm conclusion than a ruby red convertible blasting down the strip until the engine bursts, with smoke billowing out. Most of the runtime is an insane bender through Las Vegas, threaded together by Johnny Depp's narration obsessing with the American dream. He expects to find it somewhere in his hide down the alleys of Las Vegas, but what he finds is a circus of depravity, decadence, and drug use, dancing from place to place, wrecking each one, never answering those key questions. For example,
Shoot! He's killing himself!
No, he doesn't!
Don't touch it! Don't touch it! Let go! Hands up! For fuck's sake! Back! Back, motherfucker! What?
I want you to throw that fucking radio into the tub with me.
That'll blast you right through the wall. You'll be stone dead in 10 seconds. Fuck, they'll make me explain things. Shit.
Bullshit. Don't fuck with me now, man.
I may have.
Jesus Christ.
All right, you weird fucker, sit down. Back in the tub. Back in the tub. I'll plunge this into your fucking throat.
Don't make me use this, man.
Probably the only solution. Let me make sure I've got this all lined up. You want me to throw this thing into the tub when White Rabbit peaks? Is that it?
I was beginning to think I was gonna have to go outside and get one of the goddamn maids to do.
Oh, man. I'll do it. Shit. What are grins for? Close your eyes. Yeah, good boy. Why? God damn it, you're wasting my time!
Higher, man! Higher!
Those peepers. 9, 22, 3!
most of the film is scenes like this. On their own, these scenes seem pointless. In context, these scenes paint a very cynical picture of the dying embers of hippie culture. Hippie culture without any of the optimism or hope for a better world. Hippie culture replaced with a deep cynicism of drug crackdowns and religious intolerance. Drug use without hope. See, the novel takes place in the 70s, and as such is affected by that culture. In the 60s, there was this burst of optimism that the world would get better, and that the hippie movement would be the one to do it, but I think by the time of the 70s, people were left pretty jaded and empty about it all, considering the fact it never really accomplished anything. And the book, in a large part, is about that feeling. Reading a passage from the book, strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas. 5 years later? 6? It seems like a lifetime, or at least a main era. The kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be part of. Maybe it meant something. Maybe not in the long run. But no explanation. No mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive in that corner of time in the world, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hired bullshit, but even without being sure of history, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the energy of a whole generation comes to a head in a long line flash for reasons that nobody really understands at the time, and which never explain, in retrospect, what actually happened. There was madness in any direction, at any hour, not across the bay then up the Golden Gate or down the 101 to Los Altos or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right. that we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle. The sense of inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense. We didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting, on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. So now, less than 5 years later, you can go up on a steep hill in Las Vegas and look west, and with the right kind of eyes you can almost see the high water mark, the place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. Thompson's pursuit of the American dream is another important part of the novel. What I find most interesting is the lack of definition given for this term. We never hear what the American dream is, only that Thompson eagerly wants it. Wow, I wonder what that symbolizes. The American dream, if it ever existed, has long since died, leaving wandering souls in pursuit of hitting it big and drug-addled husks devoid of hope. This was the culture in the 70s, as Thompson saw it. But he doesn't view drug culture as the antidote. Drug usage on its own isn't particularly pretty, but harmful to yourself and others. Hunter Thompson had strong political views. Strong proponent for drug legalization. He opposed anyone he viewed as an institution politician, like Nixon. He also had various types of leftist leanings. These views can inform our reading of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Sneako's videos can be viewed as similar themes for a different time. I think despite the large amount of progressivism in our generation, it's hard not to get cynical about the lack of progress over anything. And Sneako, in his unabashed pursuit of money, kind of represents this. A failure of anything to really change in a meaningful sense. Gen Z, I hate that term, but we have to use it here, are more likely to be religiously unaffiliated, politically independent, and more cynical towards politics than the generations prior. I haven't yet heard a name for this particular disillusionment, but it's undeniable that it's there, brewing under the surface. Like in Fear and Loathing, we have a huge skepticism towards the old specter of American greatness. And well, we are pretty cool with drugs. Sneako is politically apathetic, doubting of all institutions, and non-religious, at least as far as I can tell. Getting the bag is his and many others' main pursuit in life. You could view this as hollow, but in a world like ours, who can really blame him for it? A lot of Sneako's work can also be viewed as gonzo journalism. A channel is Sneako talking about his life, his bravado, views on whatever comes to mind, and is perhaps an unknowing child of this bizarre journalism tendency. He isn't really focused on giving a objective view on the fact, but rather his own subjective opinion on whatever he thinks about, while being guilty of the same vices he criticizes. And if we're talking about being cynical, Charles Bukowski was a poet born in 1920, infamous for being basically a dirty old bastard. Which, just look at this.
This was the front door, and the one party he came to, he and Linda came through the front door. Everybody had been sort of excited at the notion that Charles Bukowski was coming to the party that they were coming to. I sort of, felt very comfortable, just as his friend when I was with him, but the rest of the time I was a fan. He comes, spends about 2 minutes on his drink before he decides he's just going to prowl around this room and steal everybody else's drink. So now he's stealing other drinks. This was always the mode whenever you did go out with him somewhere, or some circumstance where he wasn't just at home, is the wine was no more the drink. Now it was mix everything and die. My mother decides she's going to dance with him, and she says to him what becomes that, which was the moment he decided he liked her. She says, you know, Hank, you're the biggest phony in the world. So now he has a great affection for her. They start to dance. My mother's Irish-Italian. She likes to drink too. And it's going. My dad's got a Cheshire smile on a little pew bench we had over there watching the whole thing. And now the pants are coming out. He's trying to take my mother's clothes off. My mother's, at this point, in her late 60s. And everybody is sitting back and saying, this is what he's supposed to do. It was the first time that they'd actually seen a legend behave like his legend. He criticized my fountain, which was there, just saying it was ugly or something like this. Came out, back in the living room, he's looking around and said, let's get the f*** out of here. So now he's said his exit line and goes out. She comes back in, gets me because he needs to be helped into the car. So we're lifting him into the car out here. It's about a 20-minute project. So we finally get him into the car, and Linda again thanks us, and they drive away. I go in. This is his affection for you, and sort of not apologizing exactly, but explaining. And then back in comes Hank, and he says, wonderful party. Goes, gets himself right into the car, and they go.
The man was famous for not giving a shit, at one point voicing support for Nazis just to rile his classmates. He said on his hometown LA, "You live in a town all your life, and you get to know every bitch on a street corner, and half of them you've already messed around with. Since I was raised in LA, I've always had the geographic and spatial feeling of being there." This was the grimy, shitty LA of the 20th century, before all the influencers got their hands on it, and Bukowski was its avatar. Speaking on his childhood, Bukowski has said,
"I had to cut his grass once a week. Once lengthwise, then crosswise, then trim the edges with shears. And if I missed one blade of grass anywhere on the front or back lawns, he beat the living shit hell out of me. After the beating, I would have to go out and water the lawns. Meanwhile, the other kids were playing baseball or football and growing up to be normal humans. The big moment would always come when the old man would stretch out on the lawn and put his eye level with the grass blades. He'd always manage to find one. 'There, I see it. You missed one. You missed one.' Then he'd yell toward the bathroom window where my mother, a fine German lady, always stood about this time of the proceedings. 'He missed one. I see it. I see it.' Then I'd hear my mother's voice. 'Ah, he missed one. Ah, shame, shame.' I do believe that she blamed me for her troubles, too. 'Into the bathroom,' he'd scream. 'Into the bathroom.'"
When he was 24, he started publishing short stories to various magazines with little success. Eventually, he got disillusioned and abandoned writing, staying in cheap rooms and getting a job at the post office, which is where he got many of his most well-known stories from. Black Sparrow Press, a small publisher, took a chance on Bukowski, letting him publish books under an alter ego. In a 1982 interview, Bukowski called the American left white-bellied shrieks of nowhere, saying, "The fight is in the streets. I come from the streets. I understand them. But the streets are the streets. There isn't much you can do with them. And I don't want to save the world. I don't want to make it a better place. I just want to live in it and talk about what happens. I don't want the whales to be saved. I don't want the nuclear power plants to be broken down and taken away. Whatever is here, I am with it." He also said, speaking about sex, that "I start with my pleasure. If there's something left, they can take it. When I am satisfied, it's all over in 10 seconds. Get over there, let's get it out of the way so I can watch TV." When asked about, what about her pleasure, he said, "Are you talking about that sex liberation bullshit? Sometimes I tried to do all I could, a lot of foreplay. I know where the clitoris is. No, if they don't like what I'm doing, they go to another man, which is what they usually do." Sneako's main topic is the streets of New York and the superficial culture surrounding them. The most interesting Sneako video to me is the one he did in response to the Chris D'Elia drama a while back. I won't talk about all of it, I'll link to it down below. I don't want to steal food from his mouth. But he talks about meeting a fan and misinterpreting her signals as sexual when really she just wanted to talk to him. Now, you can criticize him for being shitty or problematic. Again, I recommend you watch the video for the full story. Now, you can criticize him for being shitty or problematic, but one, do you think he doesn't know that? Like, do you think that's new or innovative to him in any way? You can criticize him, but you have to know it won't really do anything. And two, acknowledging the worst parts of ourselves is an important part of art. Toxic behaviors aren't something that we'll ever be rid of, no matter how much we may want it. So putting it in art is inevitable and important. This doesn't justify it, but at least lets us deal with it in a productive way. And I think that's both what Bukowski and Sneako do, which is why both have a sizable cult following. Anyways, thank you for watching, subscribe, and peace.